The Fete of Death, Tara Trott, Book 1, Chapter 4. Tara regained her composure and ran into the caravan. She heard Susan Smythe sobbing and wailing outside as she quickly took in details of the crime scene. Adam Pinder had been strangled with the electric cable off his own microphone, and the murderer had also shoved the microphone into his mouth for good measure. He was sprawled out on the bed. It looked like he'd been asleep at the time. His cowboy boots were on the floor. As far as motives went, his terrible singing looked like a strong motive for his death. The wind picked up outside, and the clouds had turned a foreboding ink grey. A storm was brewing. The gathering gusts batted something around the caravan floor which caught Tara's sharp eye. She picked it up. It was a scrunched up handwritten note. It had been squashed into a shape resembling the number 3. It looked likely to be the same note she'd seen the brownie hand to him earlier when he'd been sat on the stage drinking a can of beer. It read, "You can have your cake and eat it. Meet me in your caravan in 20 minutes. We've got a lot to talk about. Cheers. X." She popped the note into her jeans pocket and confronted the ashen-faced crowd gathered round the distraught Susan Smythe. Not one of them tried to console her. They were standing there to find out what was going on. Susan Smythe sobbed alone. "He's been murdered," she told them bluntly. The crowd didn't flinch. They mumbled under their breath to each other before walking off. It was the most bizarre reaction to a murder Tara ever expected to see. Susan Smythe sobbed even louder. The twins, who left the cake tent to find out what the commotion was about, stood on either side of her and led her slowly over to the catering van to get her a nice cup of tea, which Tara had grave doubts about because although she hadn't managed to taste the coffee yet, it didn't look at all nice. Mind you, the twins had drunk it, or had they? She was sure they never drank coffee. She'd only ever seen them drink tea. Who knew why they decided to take her coffees off her, unless they'd done it on purpose to deny Tara her much-needed caffeine for a little longer. Susan Smythe wriggled free of the twins and lurched across the field sobbing. "Someone had best phone the police," said Tara, not wanting the job herself. The person who called it in would have to endure hours of questioning, and she didn't fancy that one bit. "Police? We don't want the police. Not till after the fate's finished anyway. Someone get the St. John's ambulance people over here sharpish. Stretcher him off someplace till later," said Samantha Inkler, drawing horrified gasps from the dissipating crowd. They showed more reaction to her suggesting they put a dead body inside a St. John's ambulance than they had when they'd been told someone had been murdered right in front of them. "It's a crime scene," shouted Tara, feeling her blood bubble violently in her veins. Samantha Inkler might run the show at the council, but she didn't have the authority to move a body out of the way till after the fete was over, just because a murder was inconvenient to her plans. "It's a scene. I'm not having anyone ruin my day. Adam Pinder tried his best to ruin it with his awful singing, and then when that didn't work, he went and got himself killed. He was probably murdered because he murdered those songs earlier. Poetic justice, if you ask me," Samantha Inkler said, her red varnished nails resting on her slender hips. "You must have hired him. It's your fate," said Tara. "I didn't. Linda Phelps oversaw the entertainment. I'll be having words with her over it later on, believe me." Simon Salter charged out of the cake tent like a raging bull. "You only care about money and yourself," he spat. "Not you again. You're a very tiresome man. Go and ride your ponies whilst you still can, she smirked. I've rented this field off the council for the past 21 years. You can't just throw me off it because you want to make money building more houses. Who'd want to live here, in all honesty? I know I wouldn't, snapped Tara. Although the present state she was in, none of the villagers would have wanted her to live there, millionaire or not. It's not just about the money. There are far too many horses in this village, all going to the toilet on the pavements, holding up traffic, turning our footpaths into muddy trenches. I'm on a mission to get rid of as many as I can. She picked an imaginary piece of fluff off her tweed jacket and flicked it into the wind. I'll stop you from taking my field. See if I don't. Today's the last time you'll set your heeled feet on my field. I can promise you that. Samantha Inkler yawned distractedly and started to sashay her way back to the cake tent. But the effect was ruined by a small terrier called Misfit from the pet tent when he escaped from his child handler and peed on her heeled wellies. She scolded the child till he cried. Even the usually feisty little dog whimpered. The St. John's ambulance duly arrived, but Tara managed to stop them from taking the body out of the caravan. They weren't happy about it and said they had to follow orders or they'd never get to attend a council event again. They had to have real people at events to try out their techniques on, they'd explained. Dummies were okay, but nothing beats a real screaming, bleeding person, they'd told her, which worried her because it's not the sort of thing you'd expect a first aider to say. The mayor, Peter Lehman, was helped up onto the stage by a gaggle of giggling brownies. He was a rotund man with a moon-like face and a stomach that told of eating too many pies for too many years. Luckily, he had a loud voice, so he was able to make himself heard without the need for a microphone, which was good news because the St. John's ambulance people, after some persuading, had left the microphone wire entwined around Adam Pinder's throat. They tried to remove the microphone from his mouth, but it was wedged in too tightly, so they'd reluctantly left it where it was. Tara had told them to not touch the body at all, but they said they had to try CPR. However, they soon found they couldn't manage it with the microphone being where it was. Everybody, please stay calm. It appears that our event singer had an unfortunate accident with his microphone, but the St. John's ambulance people are attending to him as we speak, so he's in good hands. Everyone was calm. That was the creepiest thing of all, thought Tara. Not that a killer was more than likely mingling among them. He's dead, snapped Tara, not believing what she was hearing coming from the village's mayor of all people. You can't pretend someone's still alive just so the cake judging can go ahead as planned. The mayor ignored her heckling. The judging of the cakes and pies is going to start shortly, so if you have entries, please make your way over to the cake tent. I'm sure you'll all agree there have been some interesting looking entries today, and I'm sure the judges are looking forward to tasting them all. Good luck, everyone. Well, I wouldn't be looking forward to tasting most of the entries. They look like indigestion on a plate, thought Tara. The twins walked back towards the tent with a swaying Susan Smythe between them. They'd found her near the catering van, and she'd obviously taken a tumble in the mud. How's she doing? She's had a couple of nasty shocks today. Looks like she's had a few drinks too. Is she drunk? Asked Tara. I can hear you. So what if I am drunk? So what? You'd be drunk if you just found out your boyfriend had been having an affair. Adam Pinder was. Tara thought about the note. Maybe the person who wrote that was the woman he'd been having the affair with. Susan Smythe seemed more upset about the affair than she was about finding his body. The note had been written on pink notepaper bordered with red hearts, which was a sure sign that a woman had written it. Yes, well, he was having an affair. He said he finished it last night. I see. I am very sorry you had to find him like that. Someone had to. They sat her on a white plastic chair inside the cake tent, where she wept quietly with her knees up to her chest, clutching her black suede shoes, which were splattered in mud. Next time I'll listen to Melanie Grinter, sighed Tara. Neither cot seemed like the other side of the world away, not just a couple of miles. It felt like she had been in the wretched village of Tarndale for weeks, not hours, and she didn't dare think how long it had been since her last cup of decent coffee. Melanie Grinter's going to be beside herself when we get back. She'd said there'd be death, and there has been. In fact, everything she saw in our tea leaves has come true. It's uncanny, that is, said Sally. I never expected a murder right under our noses, said Molly, clutching her topaz necklace. Melanie didn't say there'd be a murder. She just said she saw death. It's a shock. I never expected it to happen. I didn't either. I walked past Adam's caravan on my way for the coffees. I saw a brownie hand him a note when he was sitting on the edge of the stage. We'll have to find that brownie and ask who gave the note to her. At least then we'll know who wrote it, said Tara, biting her lip. I bet it was that Simon Salter. You said they nearly came to blows, said Sally, wide-eyed. Yes, and he did say he'd put him out of his misery once and for all if he sang again. He didn't sing again, thankfully, but the weapon used was his microphone. But the note seems more likely to have been written by a woman going off the paper it was written on. Can you honestly see him using pink notepaper? Asked Tara. No, but it could be a false clue to put us off the scent, said Sally. The murderer could have been the woman he'd been having the affair with. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, said Molly dramatically. It could just as easily have been Susan Smythe. She slapped him across the face when she rowed with him earlier. She's obviously got a temper on her, and she seems more upset about the affair than the fact he's been murdered. She found the body, and whoever finds the body is always the first suspect in any murder investigation, said Tara. It could have been Samantha Inkler, said Mavis Poole, sliding between the twins. What makes you say that? Asked Tara, frowning. I saw her follow him into his caravan, shouting about getting the environmental health onto him, smiled Mavis Poole coldly. I heard that too. I didn't see her go inside the caravan, though. Hey, where's our muffins gone? Asked Sally, pointing at the empty plate, which had only had a few crumbs on it. The judges must have liked them, laughed Tara. They've scoffed a lot, and they haven't even started the judging yet. No, you don't understand. They can't have eaten them. I thought that was the idea, asked Tara, baffled. She was having a surreal day. Only one of them, not all of them. Sally put her hand to her mouth and whimpered. This is very bad. I suggest we leave now, said Molly, grabbing Tara's arm and attempting to drag her to the exit. We can't leave now. The judges are here, and we'll need to give statements to the police when they get here. The judges were Samantha Inkler and Linda Phelps, who you could tell was a nervous wreck from being tied to Samantha Inkler and her frequent outbursts with various people, including herself, all morning. Linda Phelps had an almost bone-white blonde hair, cut into a bob, and cobalt blue eyes. She was dressed in a floaty ankle dress with a plum cardigan. The wind was having great fun whipping her dress up, and she was having a time of it, trying to stop herself repeating the Marilyn Monroe look in front of so many people. We have to leave as soon as we can before something bad happens. Something bad has happened. Things don't get much worse than a murder. Anyway, we can't leave. My car's still stuck in the mud in that field. The judges started making their way down the line of seemingly endless array of cakes and muffins, reluctantly tasting each exhibit, watched like a hawk by those who'd made them. The bakers were concentrating so much they opened their own mouths when the judges put their cakes in their mouths to taste them. They frowned at the twins' empty plate, then carried on down the line. The twins covered their eyes with their hands, shaking their heads. The judges reached the pies. Tara's nails dug into her palms as they tasted her blackberry pie. They seemed to like it, which was a relief. Next on the table was Mavis Poole's black currant pie. Mavis watched them slyly, one thin grey eyebrow raised. "I'm sorry, is this pie black currant?" asked Linda Phelps, her Welsh voice quivering. "It is," said Mavis Poole. "I'm allergic to blackcurrant. You know that, Mavis. I'm afraid I can't taste it," she said, fighting back tears. Samantha Inkler snorted. "More for me, then. I happen to be partial to a blackcurrant pie, and it's delicious," she said, tucking into great big spoonfuls, watched fearfully by Linda Phelps. "I might as well have your share." "You don't know what you're missing. It's to die for." "I can't help having an allergy," said Linda Phelps, twisting handfuls of her dress in her damp palms. After tasting the rest of the pies, the judges huddled together to discuss the winners. It was tense as the judges were having a heated discussion about Mavis's blackcurrant pie. Samantha Inkler stated it was easily the winner. Linda Phelps was saying in a much quieter voice that as she couldn't taste it, she couldn't possibly offer an opinion, so really the entry should be void. Annabelle Thompson and Cheryl Trellan were standing at the back of the tent. Cheryl Trellan was looking as drunk as Susan Smythe had, who was sat snoring in the chair they'd sat her in some time ago. "We need to find out who ate our muffins," said Sally. "How will you know who's eaten them? They've eaten the evidence," said Tara. "We'll know," said Molly. Tara caught something in the tone of her voice that sent her radar for trouble off the scale. "How will you know? Ladies, you best come clean. I've had a very bad day and I've got no caffeine in my system whatsoever, which means I won't be able to keep my tongue in check." "Well, it'll be okay if they only ate one muffin. The judges would have only eaten one or less, and that would have been enough to feel the effects of the herbs but not get overdosed. The judges would have felt quite cheerful with just the one, but if whoever stole the muffins ate the lot, I'm afraid they're in for a bad time of it," said Molly, looking sheepish. "Herbs? It's drugs, isn't it?" "Well, technically they're herbs. We grow them ourselves, you know," said Sally, stammering. "I don't want to know. The less I know, the better. My car now smells of the stuff. Oh my God, you've turned me into a drug smuggler. I brought the cakes here. They'll blame me for everything. No one's going to believe two sweet little old ladies could have anything to do with drugs, except Professor Rummage. He warned me about you two. Well, that's it. If we manage to get out of this wretched place, I'm never taking you two anywhere ever again. We didn't mean any harm. We have a mischievous streak, that's all. And Professor Rummage is happy enough when he comes for his muffins every week, because they help his arthritis, even though he doesn't know it's the muffins easing it. He thinks it's all the walking he does." Tara put her hand over her mouth. "So, thanks to you two, Nethercott is rife with drugged pensioners, is it? And you, what, decided to branch out and try your luck in Tarndale? You know, this must be a terrible dream. I'm sure I'm going to wake up from the whole sorry spectacle." A sudden crash behind her stopped Tara mid-sentence. Samantha Inkler had collapsed into the cake benches, knocking them over. There was strange foam bubbling out from her red lipstick-coated lips. "She didn't have our muffins! It wasn't our muffins!" shrieked Sally, jumping up and down. Tara ignored her hysterics and ran to the lifeless body of Samantha Inkler to start CPR. "St. John's ambulance are here," someone shouted, but there was nothing any first aider could do for her. She was dead before she'd hit the ground. Linda Phelps looked ready to faint or keel over with a heart attack and join her. "I think she's been poisoned," said Tara, wishing she hadn't entered the pie competition now, as the police would no doubt want to question her for hours till they had eliminated her pie from the murder investigation. "Poison? Then I've been poisoned too," wailed Linda Phelps. Everyone looked over at the hyperventilating Linda Phelps clutching her stomach, waiting for the inevitable swoon of death to occur. Then Cheryl Trellin collapsed. The first aiders ran to them, not knowing of any first aid techniques that could be implemented with a poison victim. In training, they were told, if in doubt and a bandage wasn't an option, put them into the recovery position. But there was no chance of Samantha Inkler ever recovering. "Hang on, Cheryl Trellin didn't eat any of the cakes or the pies. It must be airborne," shouted a panic-stricken villager running for the exit. One by one, people in the tent started rolling their eyes, hyperventilating and fainting, clutching their stomachs. Even the St. John's ambulance volunteers swooned, because there's only so many people in a confined space you can witness collapse before you join in yourself. "What's going on? Has everyone been poisoned?" asked Tara. She didn't understand how things had got so bad so quickly. How? It's a tent. There's no air filtering system or heating system. It's just a bloody tent. What's going on? "It's the jam incident all over again," spluttered an elderly woman, pulling a man out of the way of the exit so she could get through first. Tara watched in amazement as people trampled over unconscious bodies to get out of the cake tent. Actions speak louder than words, and it didn't take long for everyone outside the cake tent to get caught up in events. Death, they believed, was among them, striking people down at will. It was, after all, a cursed field. The twins and Tara stood open-mouthed as people keeled over like dominoes all over the field. The tireless brownies made a gallant effort to drag the fallen into lines of some sort of order. It was more like a battlefield than a village fete. Tara spotted the brownie who'd handed Adam Pinder the note. "Hey, who gave you the note you gave to Adam Pinder?" The brownie frowned at Tara as if it was the most bizarre question anyone had asked her in her entire life. "No one gave it to me. I saw it stuck to the caravan door. I read it and thought I'd give it to him in case it blew off in the wind. I thought it might be important," she said, scratching her freckled nose. "Thanks, you've been a big help." "Not really," thought Tara. She still didn't know he'd written the note. The heavens opened. Thankfully, it revived the villagers from their mass hysteria attack, and they started to run or crawl for cover. Most of them chose the beer tent for refuge, as the cake tent had at least one corpse in it to the best of their knowledge. Tara looked round at the twins. "Why weren't you affected?" "We knew who'd eaten our muffins." "Who? Linda Phelps?" "No, Cheryl Trellin." "How did you work that out?" "Because she's the only one hallucinating," Sally said, pointing at Cheryl Trellin, shadow box in the wind. "What did you put into those muffins?" "Cannabis infused with magic mushrooms." "Oh my God. She's going to be victim number 3. I'll be an accessory to murder. I'm going to jail. It's a fact." "It won't kill her. At least I don't think it will. She was sick earlier, so most of it won't be in her system now. We thought she was drunk before." "I did too." Well, what a day. 2 dead bodies, stolen muffins, drugs, mass hysteria, and now a storm. I'm in desperate need of several very strong coffees. A nice cup of tea would go down well. "I don't know how we're going to get back home, do you?" asked Sally, pulling her sodden cardigan over her chest. "We've got to wait for the police. They'll want to take statements off everyone here. I doubt anyone's leaving Towndale tonight." "Susan Smythe's left already," said Molly, pointing at the empty chair. "She's probably in the caravan making a nice cup of tea," said Sally in a faraway voice. Tara walked over to the pie-laden table deep in thought. "That's not my pie," Tara said, pointing at a pie. "What do you mean?" "Someone swapped it. I know my own crimping when I see it, and that's not it. That's it, the one over there with Mavis Poole's name tag on it. Are you sure? They all look alike to me." "Course I'm sure. She's trying to frame me for Samantha Inkler's murder."